Gaia Schilke is an international poet, visual artist who grew up in Connecticut and lived in Manhattan for 20 years. Her poems and illustrations have been published in numerous literary magazines, journals, and books in the United States, Canada, Australia, and England. And her book of illustrated poems and stories, From the Margin, Stray Dog Press, was published in 1997. Gaia was also the curator of a reading series at both the Knitting Factory and the New Yorican Poets Cafe in New York City, as well as the co-founder and co-editor of the multicultural arts magazine Tribes. Of Schilke's downtown poetry band, Backbone Flute, the Village Voice wrote, "Dangerous neo-feminist poet Gaia Schilke should light a fire under the New Yorican Poet Cafe's boho denizens. Expect brilliantly eccentric turns of phrase and husky-voiced prosodic eroticism from Gaia Schilke, who dances to a drummer from a not-too-distant future." Gaia's upcoming poetry book, Anecdotal Evidence, a collection of work from the past 30 years, will be published in February 2019. The reading you're about to see was filmed at the Poetry Cafe at Bellas Artes in San Miguel de Allende, where she now calls home. Ladies and gentlemen, Gaia Schilke.
And the writing conference, the writers' conference, and the writing workshops and the Poetry Cafe is one of the reasons I moved here. And it's just such an honor to read here. So, thank you. Special seat for the big gulp. I wrote this poem after coming back from a poetry reading out in Brooklyn with a car full of poet friends. And the big difference that night was that instead of riding on the subway as usual, we were in a car. So this is called White Castle, the movie. Okay, so it's 1 a.m. and you're driving and not riding through Brooklyn. And you know how Brooklyn goes on forever, and the further you go, the hungrier you get. Plus you're driving and not riding, and they got White Castle out here, and you're a bunch of overgrown teenagers cruising and losing your high. I mean, you want to move into White Castle, but you're driving and not riding, and you're all too lazy to get out of the car, so you drive through the drive-through, only the drive-through is running in place. And you end up doing time on that White Castle line, and it's like the people in front of you just left the car and walked home to eat. And Carl says, "What did they order? The family reunion pack?" And Willie says they call this fast food because what you do is fast. And you're screaming at the car behind you to back off, the end is not near. But then you're nosing up the window and praise the lords of Flatbush. White Castle delivers 99 cents for 2 burger wannabes and 1 defeated order of fries. And everyone shuts up now, stuffing those wisecracks and feeling those burgers burn all the way down. And now you're ready to keep driving, maybe even off the Brooklyn Bridge with that fire in your gut. Helps when you're with a car full of poet friends. This is a poem about my paternal grandmother who unknowingly helped create this dangerous neo-feminist poet. And so it's called Legacy. The first time my grandfather saw my grandmother, he said, so the story goes, "See that lady? I'm going to marry her." He knew right away about the pretty veneer. He did not know about the madness it contained. The package, you see, so lovely. I remember her as a wraith of isolation, religion, and beauty, restrained in a cold, sad home. 3 times as a young mother, she was hospitalized, put away in an institute for the insane. In her 80s, she confided to me that those were the happiest times of her life. No children, no husband, no crowds to serve but never sit down with, just miles of solitude, a quiet, white, pure space to be at leisure with words and music. Sometimes I feel that part of me that is this grandmother, longing to be put away. I cover my chest and turn, look over my shoulder in fear that there is a man looking at me and clearing his throat to say, "See that lady?" Too late. I'm sorry, I'm just getting over a cold, so my throat is still. Over the years, I've fallen in love with a lot of dead writers. The truth is, I'm a dead writer's slut. Yeah, it's the truth. This poem is a collaboration of sorts, and it has an imagined introduction. This is it. In December, I go out to Coney Island to see a play adapted from Henry Miller's novel, Black Spring. And Henry's there all right. And after the play's over, he and I go down to Nathan's, grab us a couple of dogs, and head back up the boardwalk to watch the sun set on a cold Sunday afternoon. And I say to him, "Henry, your play at Coney Island, it's an inspiration." And Henry smiles that conspiring smile of his as he leans towards me, his eyes like gleaming picks. "Baby," he says, "Coney Island is my middle name." So this poem includes words from Henry Miller's Black Spring, and it's called Henry, Coney Island, Miller. At the sideshow by the seashore, with mirrors and magic tricks, and the slick underbelly crooks its juicy finger, you want to eat fried things. You want to fight major spasms in your gut. You want to move into a hiding place for freaks. Henry Miller is not hiding. He wants to declare he is a traitor among traitors to the human race. And we look, but we cannot bear it. Us whores and faggots and niggers and cunts and kikes. We are all of us equals in the waste and cruelty of our lives. I go with Henry to his street of early sorrows, where everything is shoddy, thin as pasteboard, a Coney Island of the mind. We all come here, finally, and we live in those buildings that cannot hold themselves erect. Henry asks, "What is all this that I never forgot and now is no more?" He says, "I was a lamb. They cut away everything that was mine, all that was sacred, private, taboo. And now the war is inside me. My broken rectum howls." He is the bruised red sun going down on Coney Island. Henry Miller beats off into the bloody and wild nightlife. When this mad thing called sleep runs like an 8-day clock, all pain and dull and bearable, like this. So I wrote this poem back in the 90s when women were all going around saying all men are dogs. Now, I never thought that. I never thought all men are dogs. But if you told me back then that all men are boys, well, I'd drink to that. So I'm with a man now. But this is what I call a Valentine from a malcontent to the boys. To the boys I just met, to the boys I haven't yet met, to the boys I used to meet, to the boys, the boys, the boys. What is it about you boys, anyhow? I want you to come and sit on my lap. I want to whisper in your ears, all of them. I want to hold you, hold me. I want to know you, show me. I want to have your protection, your umbrella, please. I want you to open my doors, all of them. I want you to go away. I want you to come back again sometimes. I want you to excite me with your words so I don't sleep at night and I'm lying awake saying to myself, first I said, then he said, then he said, then we said. and our voices fit together like Siamese twins, only with room to breathe and no fear of death. I want you, boys. I want you to be better. So you boys, you beautiful boys, I want you all, or at least some of you, or at least one of you, all right, maybe half of one of you, but at least that. Listen, you boys. Listen, you boys, I know you're looking at me. I know what you see, but I'm showing you who you see. All you boys, or one of you boys. I'm looking for you with my heart in a sling. Thank you. Thank you. Is it going okay? All right, thanks. So in my younger years, which is not to say young because I was in my 30s, I decided it'd be a really good idea to take up rollerblading in New York City. And this was in the 80s, before rollerblades were popular for recreation. And unlike my girlfriend, her husband, and all his friends, I was not a natural. But I was determined. And even though it was a humiliating experience, as I slowly gained proficiency in a city that demands expertise, I was reminded of something important we know very well as children, but we often forget as adults. You fall down, and you get back up. You fall down, and you get back up. Well, I finally became pretty skilled on my rollerblades after learning that lesson, and you couldn't keep me off them. And I wrote poems in my head while I skated, but this one wrote itself one night. It's all true, and it's the reason most of you never wanted to live in New York City back then. It's called Nocturnal. Look, something told me I should just stay in tonight, but no, I don't pay any attention to myself. I head out on my skates like a lamb to slaughter. And sure enough, as soon as I start my laps around Washington Square, this boy, this adolescent type, shimmies up on his bike and tries to run me off the road. So I grab his bike and I won't let go. And now he knows it's me and him. We go down together, or not at all. And he's scared, and I'm glad, and I won't let go. And when I do, I give him a shove, and he takes a dive, and I call him the expletive, deleted he is. And his friend says, "You hear what she called you?" And then they both start after me. So I duck through the park, shaking bad, decide to skip the skate altogether, head for home with a vengeance, deadbolt the door behind me, and look down from my window at the smooth, dark street below. Thanks. So one night I was out in the city with 5 other women, and we met this almost famous writer who seemed like, to all of us, our dream guy. And we ended up going out with him after his reading, and I kind of sat back and watched the other girls, some of whom were not even single, desperately vying for his attention. But he liked me, and of course I was thrilled. We talked for a while, and I was smitten. And when we all got up to leave, me having just lost 5 women friends, he asked for my phone number as we were saying goodnight. And this was BC, you know, before cell phones. And I was impressed because he memorized it right there on the street. Wow. And when I got home, he called to tell me he was leaving town the next day, but he very much looked forward to seeing me again. Well, he did. He went on to become a famous writer, and I never saw him again. But here's what I got. I got this poem. As Meryl Streep recently advised, take your broken heart and make it into art. So this is called Listen, You Man. Listen, you man with 2 first names, who do you think you are, anyhow, coming into my life with your big spoon and stirring up the elements, bringing up hope from the bottom of the stew, making that stew taste like caviar? Well, never mind, you man, I don't like, never have, never will caviar, and I don't eat that shit. But I will for you, sorry that just slipped out. Look here, you man, I want my hope back where it belongs, and I'm not dining at this table. Can I borrow your spoon? You southern sweetbread, you man with 2 names, as if a man with 1 name weren't already one too many. So don't offer me this. Did you offer, by the way? I want to forget you. I want to memorize you. I want to stop wanting. You know, I just want to stop wanting. Please stop stirring me just long enough to listen. Thank you. How you doing out there? You all right? I've got two more. Is that all right? Okay. Is that all right? That sounds good. Thank you. Well, I wonder what happened to the intro to that. Well, it was just sort of, because I try to write them out ahead because I can never think, as you'll see, when I'm just talking. But I was at a friend's party, dinner party up in Maine, where I used to go in the summer for years and years. And I was walking around while I was cleaning the table, you know, and I picked up a full glass of wine from the table and started drinking it, of course. And she said to me, "Oh, don't drink that. You know, that's like the weird woman's glass," from her dinner party. And I considered my options, you know, and I said to her, I raised the glass in a toast, and I said, "But I want to drink from the weird woman's glass," you know. So I did. And I never stopped. This is called drinking from the weird woman's glass. The weird woman waits and never gives up. She asks herself questions she never answers. Wears black lace gloves to tie back her hair. She hops on one foot, knocks stars out of her ears. The weird woman drops crumbs of bread along her path. Birds pick them up, fly them away, so no one can follow. The weird woman opens her arms, then her legs, then her heart, revealing the same place, soft and yearning. The weird woman floats on still water, marks the place her heart sank, then rose to the surface. The weird woman laughs, alone to herself, an echo without reply, a stranger's blessing. So anyhow, I'll do one more poem, and these poems are all going to be in my upcoming poetry book, which is actually going to get done in the next few months. And this last poem, I hope to, it's work I've written and rewritten for the last 30 years, as you can tell. So this is a short poem about our short lives by a short poet. And it's called Grounds. Look, the evidence is in, and it's not good. The defense has nothing to declare. The thing is how you choose to spend the rest of your very limited time. And when you think of it that way, brevity serves a purpose. See, there's no time for details, no time to leave a trail, no time for the tall tales of our lives. And I say enough about safe sex. What about safe head? What about safe heart? What about safe the last dance for me? Look, I need to know how you want to spend the rest of your very limited time. For you and I, it seems, brevity serves a purpose. Because the evidence is in. You know it's not good. Thank you.